I'm so sorry. I love Jewish traditions. I just cannot have a brisk because it's not my culture. It's not my tradition. I don't want to have a brisk. And he's like, what are you saying? And I was like, I just don't want to have a brisk. And he's like, wait, what? And I was like, I don't want to have a brisk. And he's like, do you mean a bris? And I was like, what? Oh, okay. And I was like, that's why I can't have a brisk, because I didn't even know it was called a brisk. I thought it was called a brisk because it happens like quick and it's over fast. It's like brisk. And I thought that they served a brisket there.
Flying Solo with Brittany Ross.
Hey guys, welcome to Full Out Flying Solo. I feel like this week, my kids, we're trying to figure out how to raise our kids because my husband is Jewish and I'm not. I'm what we all are in LA, spiritual. But I was raised like extremely Christian in Texas and like so Christian. My grandma was kind of a big deal in the Christian poetry section of Barnes and Nobles in the 90s because she was a Christian poet. So I'm the granddaughter of a Christian poet from Texas and my husband is Jewish from Switzerland. And so we're trying to figure out how to like come together. And it's like for us, as we were dating, it was funny. And now it's like, now that we have kids, we're like, oh, this is like a thing. We're going to have to figure this out. Like when we were dating, when I first met Marco, I was going to visit him and I was at my grandma's house in Texas and I was sitting there and she was putting together her second book of Christian poetry. And Marco was like very new in my life. And she knew I was like leaving her house at Christmas to go visit this new boyfriend. And we're sitting there and she's like, so Brittany, tell me about this nice young fellow of yours. Is he a good Christian man? And I was like, actually, Grandma, he's Jewish. And she was like, that's okay. Let's just say a prayer for him right now. And so she like took my hand and we said a prayer for him at the kitchen table. And the next day she came downstairs carrying a pamphlet. She's like, before you leave, Brittany, I don't know where this came from. She's like, I found this pamphlet. I've never seen it before. It must have been a God thing. It just was sitting on my nightstand. I've never seen it before. Before you leave, I want you to take this, give this to your man. And it was a pamphlet that was like this big. And it said, how a Jewish man came to know and love Jesus Christ. And it looked exactly like Will Ferrell from Step Brothers on the cover of the pamphlet. And I was going to visit Marco and his family for the first time. And I was like, I'm going to take this because I just want to see if he's going to laugh at this or not. And like how he's going to respond to this. Because to me, I thought it was so funny. And like, my grandma's like so sweet in tension. But like my mom is from like a Catholic family of 6 kids in Texas. So that's to be expected, And I gave it to Marco when I got to visit him and he like thought it was so funny and he still has it. Like we still like joke about it. He still has it like 12 years later, like in his desk or something. But then I feel like he got put on everybody in my family's prayer list because he's Jewish. And then, I'm also not Jewish. So that was a thing. I grew up mainly in Texas and growing up in Texas, the only Jewish person I knew was Jesus, honestly. So I was like not used to being around Jewish people. But then when I was in high school, I moved to Chicago and I went to a school called like Buffalo Grove, BG High School. And there were so many Jewish people there that people called it BJew High School. And I had like the time of my life. I met some of my like very best friends. I feel like I just missed the like bar and bar mitzvah part of everybody's lives, but everybody was wearing their swag from their bar and bar mitzvahs. And I like kind of like got like a feeling of what it was. But not in Texas. I wasn't finding that out. So I see why my Texas family is like, what? But then I feel like even me going to Jewish events, or Jewish ceremonies, I'm so, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I went to a wedding in Rome, a Jewish wedding in Rome for some of our friends. And I didn't we had to sit separate. And then the night before the ceremony, the groom got to do prayers at the synagogue. And Marco didn't tell me that I needed to cover my shoulders at the synagogue because he's a man and men do not tell you details. If it was a woman telling the husband, they would be like, you need to pack X, Y, and Z. This is what you're wearing. I packed it for you already. It's a man. He's like, yeah, we're going to the synagogue. And all of a sudden I'm like wearing a dress like this. And he's like, do you have anything to cover your shoulders? And I'm like, what? I don't know these things. You need to tell me. I don't want to show up at a synagogue breaking all the rules. So luckily his mom gave me like a shawl to wear around my shoulders. And then we go in the synagogue and the women have to sit upstairs and the men sat downstairs. So I'm there with with all the other wives and girlfriends, and most of them are Jewish. And then I have one friend who lives in Peru and she's there for the wedding and she's also not Jewish, but her husband is. So we're sitting up there and like, this is our first experience. And at a certain point they pass around like little candies, little hard candies. And I was like, oh no, thank you. I don't want one. And then my friend Andrea was like, oh yeah, I'll have one. And she like pops it in her mouth to eat it. And then 2 minutes later, the groom like does his prayer at the synagogue and all the women stand up and throw their candies over the rail because apparently it's some tradition that you like throw candy at the groom. And me and the girl just looked at each other like, oh my God. I was like, I said, no, I'm not participating. And she ate hers and we're like, we don't know what we're doing. So it's always a little bit of that on either side of our family. But now that we have kids, it's like, okay, we have to figure this out. When my son was born, I told my husband, I was like, we're trying to do all the Jewish traditions, but I was like, listen, I'm so sorry. I love Jewish traditions. I just cannot have a brisk because it's not my culture. It's not my tradition. I don't want to have a brisk. And he's like, what are you saying? And I was like, I just don't want to have a brisk. And he's like, wait, what? And I was like, I don't want to have a brisk. And he's like, do you mean a bris? And I was like, what? Oh, okay. And I was like, that's why I can't have a brisk because I didn't even know it was called a brisk. I thought it was called a brisk because it happens like quick and it's over fast. It's like brisk. And I thought that they served a brisket there. I don't know why I thought that. I swear I thought they served brisket at a brisk. So we're both learning things. And then we kind of had this vibe of like, okay, we'll just let our kids, learn about both things, even though I'm just like spiritual. So I'm like, do you want to like look at the birds flying and like think about how nature works? And we'll just have them learn both things. And then they can decide, when they're older, what they want to be. And we took my daughter to Arkansas because my cousins live in Arkansas for spring break last year. And spring break is on Easter. And she had been there for Easter before because it was over spring break, but she was younger. And this time, I love my cousins so much. They're all very Christian. They're all so thoughtful and kind to Marco. And it doesn't feel like they're pushing anything on Marco or like being like, oh, you're Jewish. Or they're like, oh, we don't like, we're eating ham. And then we also have this other option for Marco. And like, they're like really thoughtful and kind about it. And so Easter morning, and like she can go to church with her cousins, she loves these cousins and we can all go to church. And Marco's like, yeah, we can go to church. It's fine. So we take Penelope to church. Benjamin's sleeping in the car. So Marco decides just to drive around with the baby in the car. I take Penelope into church. We're a little bit late. They're singing songs and everybody's in beautiful Easter dresses. It's like a very small church, like 40 people. They hand her a donut and they whisk her off to like the kids' Bible study. And I'm sitting there being like, oh my God, she's 5 now. I'm like, oh my God. My Jewish husband is driving around with my baby in the car. And like my daughter is definitely becoming Christian right now. And she comes out. She's holding a Bible in like a flowery Bible case and my cousin's daughter's with her. And my cousin's daughter's like, tell your mom what you learned, Penelope. And she's like, oh, I learned about Jesus. And like, my cousin's wife sees it all happening and she just goes, okay. And she turned and walked the other way because she's like, I don't know how this is going to fly. And I just was like, oh my God. And then Penelope starts being like, Jesus. I was like, come to the bathroom with me. And she's like, I was like, what did you learn? And she literally goes, oh, we learned about Jesus, more Jesus. Not a lot of God today. Oh, because before, as we're pulling up to the church, I should have said this. As we're pulling up to the church, Marco's dropping me and Penelope off, and she goes, I can't wait to learn about God today. And Marco and I look at each other, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, just remember everybody believes different things and that's okay. And if you have any questions, you can ask me and your dad because, your dad believes something different than is like raised different than me. And like, there's all different kinds of beliefs. So if you have any questions, just come to us. And she's like, okay. And then I send her into this church where she's like excited to learn about God. And I'm like, oh God. So then she goes, we learned about Jesus, not a lot of God today. And I'm sitting there in the bathroom being like, okay, that's fine. It's fine. And then she also, at the same moment, there was like a basket of tampons in the bathroom and she picked one up and she's like, what's this? And I was like, not today. There's already too many things I'm trying to explain to you. Please don't make me explain this too. So I was like, just like a tampon friend for your period. She's like, what? I was like, I don't know, Penelope. Like, let's just get out of here. And then I'm having I go in the car with Marco and Benjamin and Penelope. And I'm like, okay, so, and Penelope just starts going, why don't you believe, Dad? Why don't you believe? And she's like, everything they wrote in that book is true. The people who wrote it were there and they saw it. And like, I just want to go to that place. What is that place called again? Where you never have to sleep and you get to eat whatever you want. And I was like, heaven? And she's like, I want to go to heaven. And then she's like, then she literally goes, I want to go to heaven. And why don't you wear dresses, Mom? Why don't you wear dresses? And I was like, oh my God, did they turn you into a trad wife too? Like, I swear they took you back there, hot rolled your hair, gave you a Bible bag, pierced your ears with dangly crucifix earrings and sent you on your way. But we're like kind of panicking because we're like, okay, well, we thought we'd just let it all figure itself out. And we kind of missed the moment to maybe like insert some knowledge, And so we're in the car like freaking out. I'm like looking up books we can read. There's this book called Being Both. And I'm like downloading it on Audible. I'm like, it's okay. We're also going over to Easter lunch with my cousins who I love and Marco loves and Penelope loves. And I don't want her to be like, well, my dad doesn't believe in whatever you guys like. It's like such a fine line to be like, no, people believe all different kinds of things. I'm like, people believe different languages, like no different languages. And I was like, I told her, your dad thinks Jesus was just a cool guy, like that's Jewish people think Jesus was real, but he was just like a cool guy, And so she's like locked onto Jesus, obsessed with it, talking about it for months. Like we'll just be pulling into the grocery store and she'll be like, do you know Jesus had nails in his hands? I was like, do you know Jesus was Jewish? And she was like, what? How do you know that? And I was like, pretty sure it's in that same book that you read. And she was like, oh. And then I was like, everybody believes in different things and there's like God and this and whatever. And then she's like, well, what's God? And I was like, just like everything kind of. I don't know. I guess God's like everything everywhere. And she starts walking around our house, like looking at the fence and being like, is this fence God? Is this chair God? And I was like, I don't know anymore. I don't know. Just leave me alone. And so we were like, we need to have like some cool Jews over to like, balance it out so she can have both sides. And so we have a Shabbat with our friends and they come over and our friend sends like 11 and he's sitting there talking to Penelope at Shabbat and he's like talking about Marvel movies and he's like, she's like, I don't know any of those. And he's like, no, like, do you know the Hulk? And she's like, no. And he's like a god. And she goes, no, but I know Jesus. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so messed up. And then we go to Switzerland and we're doing Shabbat with my in-laws. And I literally had to sit my daughter down and be like, hey, Penelope, maybe just like don't say anything about Jesus right now, okay? Like not the time to talk about it. And she's like, oh, because they think Jesus is just like a cool guy, like Dad, because they're gibberish. And I was like, maybe like don't say that either. Like, oh my gosh, it's been like a whole thing. Also at the Bris, not the Bris, we had a baby naming instead of a Bris. We had a baby naming ceremony at our house. My Jewish friend texted me and he was like, do you need me to bring my wife to make a minion? And I know his wife is an artist. And I was like, Marco, I don't know why Ron is saying like his wife is going to bring us like minion art or something. And he's like, no, to make a minion means to like be 10 Jewish people there at the same time. And I really thought she was going to bring us like a minion art painting for the baby. So we're all learning, and I think that being both, like, I think for kids, it's so easy to lock onto one thing. It feels like way easier to understand. And like Christians, they got it down. It's like 10 minutes. Here's a donut and some songs. And like they could do it in 10 minutes. And it's hard to explain both. It's hard to explain like more things, And the other night, our babysitter was here and she goes, she told us, she's like, Penelope goes, Maria, do you believe in Jesus? And she goes, no. And she goes, oh, so you're Jewish? And she goes, no. And Penelope was like, wait, what? I think she realized there was like a third option or something else and she couldn't comprehend. So anyways, I'm sure there are a lot of interfaith couples, as being both would say, out there. And I think it's cool that she's learning about a lot of different things. It's definitely a challenge, and I'm probably doing it completely wrong. But who cares, right? Because we're all going to heaven one day. If anybody else is raising kids interfaith or was raised with multiple religions, please comment below any funny stories that would be helpful so I don't feel alone, or if you have any tips. I'm not going to do any like therapy mom kind of tips, but any like funny, cool tips, I'll take them. God bless. Amen. Shabbat shalom.